Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. Sunday, April 9th, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, ready to break down the Sunday card, which is a lot more easily digestible card compared to yesterday in terms of size. We go from 16 to 2 in terms of the number of games. So what a huge difference. What an exciting Saturday. I mean, obviously, a first that all 32 teams and 16 games in one day in the NHL, and we had wall-to-wall action on the slate. We'll break up the recap, which is actually going to make up more of the show than breaking down the two games today. The recap is going to be the longer part of the show. It started with a very, not very surprising, because Buffalo's always capable when they play well, but a nice victory for the Sabres against the Hurricanes, 4-3, although there's that semblance of too little too late, unfortunately, for the Sabres, especially when you saw what happened later in the day. They didn't get an ounce of help from anybody. Essentially. And the Sabres, they pick up 2 points. They are still mathematically alive, but they didn't gain ground, and they're obviously running out of games. So it's not going to happen for Buffalo, but you got to give this team credit. They're not going away down the stretch. They're playing good hockey, and very solid effort in net once again from Devin Levi with another victory on home ice in between the pipes for the Sabres, and a 4-3 win over Carolina. I was thoroughly impressed with Pittsburgh in their 5-1 win against Detroit, especially number 87. I mean, that is Sidney Crosby saying, we're somehow, some way going to get into these playoffs, and I'm going to lead us there. He was dominant. He was all over the puck. 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points in the game, 1,500 points now in his NHL career. He got to that milestone yesterday. He was excellent, and he basically said, I'm the general. I'll lead, and the troops will follow. And that's what we saw from Crosby yesterday and the Penguins. And Tristan Jarry, one of his better efforts we've seen. And they get the 5-1 win over Detroit. Great game. Don't be fooled by the final score with Vegas-Dallas. It was a really good hockey game, back and forth. We are both benefactors of the draw, cashing for us north of plus 300 in that game. And Dallas getting the victory in a shootout 2-1 over the Vegas Golden Knights. So Dallas with a very real chance still to be Central Division champions, although it looks like between them and Colorado, it's going to end up going down to the wire there in that division. Edmonton 6-1 over San Jose. That was a great game for me. Edmonton and over 5.5 cashes with relative ease, and the over 6.5 gets there thanks to that late Connor McDavid goal to make it 6-1. So very happy to see that. Alex, this Edmonton team, I can't describe how impressed I am enough with them right now. There's no let up. They're not taking these fly-by-night teams like the Ducks and the Sharks and these weaker teams for granted. They're coming out there and saying, we're the better team. We need to sharpen our game for the playoffs, and we need to go into the playoffs surging, playing our best hockey. Man, are they ever. I mean, it's just they're as dangerous offensively, I think, as any team right now. I mean, McDavid's going, Dreisaitl's going, Nugent Hopkins is going, Zach Hyman is going. Good luck stopping this team when you got those 4 guys all playing well at the same time. They're getting the goaltending finally from Stu Skinner. And, of course, the blue line has been solidified and improved significantly with Ekholm, who continues just to be a rock back there. I mean, just gives them steady, sound coverage defensively in the D zone, which is something Edmonton was crying out for. Very impressive stuff. What did you think of the afternoon slate? Oh, I forgot to mention Anaheim, Arizona. I mean, but I actually, what I will say about that game is it was entertaining. You had the first period over. I had the full game over. We're both happy with that. And it was a little nasty. We got some fights. We got some physical play in that game. So for two teams playing for exercise, they gave us an entertaining hockey game, and they didn't mail it in. So kudos to the Coyotes and Ducks yesterday. But Alex, your thoughts on the day games?
Yeah, well, just quickly on that, like I said, that's what you want to see from those teams, right? With teams that are out of the playoffs, like you just want to be entertained and hopefully make some profit from it. So we did, got both of those out of that equation. So that actually was for being one of the worst games on the whole slate. It was actually a pretty good one. So, but yeah, going back with Edmonton, I mean, it's wonderful seeing how they're playing right now. Like I said, when they're putting it all together, they're a fun hockey team to watch. But Megadeth once had an album called "So Far So Good, So What." As long as you can do this shit later when it counts in the playoffs is what matters. Yeah, you can beat the shit out of Anaheim and San Jose all day long, but can you take on LA when the series is tied 1-1? Can you do this against Colorado and Dallas and Minnesota when you get further on into the postseason? That's the real barometer. But like I said, putting it together now is important. And unlike some other teams that we're going to talk about in the night slate, this is a team that they're getting ready and they can turn it up to this level in the postseason potentially, and it makes them a dangerous out once the playoffs start next week. But like I said, Pittsburgh, big win for them. We were a little skeptical because they just kind of don't match up well against Detroit historically. Even though they, like I said, the last game that they pulled out that win, they were down 3-0 and had to come back from it. And you don't want to have to put yourself in that kind of a jackpot situation early in the game right now. You can't afford to be down 2-0 if you're Pittsburgh. You're already exerting enough energy just trying to get back into the playoffs. So to have to exert more energy in a game on top of what you already have to just exert playing the game itself, if that makes any sense, make things easier for yourselves. We talk about this with all these teams in that Eastern wild card. None of those teams have made anything easy for themselves. Maybe Pittsburgh's now starting to separate from the pack and be on those teams to say, hey, listen, we know how to get here. We've been doing this time and time again. Let's get our shit together and move forward. And that's what they did. So a humongous statement win. And like you said, Vegas, Dallas was as good as advertised. And, as much as we both love watching some high scoring, back and forth breakneck hockey, seeing a good classic defensive battle like we saw with Vegas and Dallas, and seeing two goaltenders playing their ass off and guys blocking shots, just good play all around. That was a very entertaining game. And I was a little bummed out to see Vegas.
Jonathan Quick yesterday too.
Yeah, vintage Quick. That was and like I said, he'll give you those 1 out of every 5 starts. He's going to give you a clunker, but 1 out of every 5 starts, he's going to give you vintage Jonathan Quick, the guy who won 2 Stanley Cups in his prime with LA, and that's what we saw in that game. And of course, Jake Ottinger, sensational as well. Would have loved to see Vegas win, of course, because I had that money line, especially when it went up to plus 140 with Eichel being out. But just a great entertaining game, and very happy to get the draw. It's funny because they were sitting pretty quiet for most of that third period, but then all of a sudden something changed with about 3.5 minutes left. There were a ton of chances both ways. Getting a little nervous there watching that, but thankfully the draw held on. So that was the one draw that I cashed on the daytime.
Yeah, definitely. Good to see that. And it was a good afternoon slate, and that led to the evening slate, which was very, very entertaining as well. You talk about another game that was really good, even though it was low scoring because it had that playoff feel. Nashville and Winnipeg. Great goaltending. Both goalies were excellent. UC Saros and Connor Hellebuck tipped the cap to both of them. Outstanding. Of course, it was Hellebuck that got the shutout victory, but a huge victory for Winnipeg, especially when you factor in what happened with Calgary later in the night. They now sit alone in that final spot. And Nashville, I don't want to say they're cooked, but they're damn close after that loss. And now it's going to be an uphill battle for Nashville. They're just 3 points back now, not enough games left. So that was a must, I think, for Nashville to win that game and win it in regulation. They did neither. And that's a huge win for the Jets last night, 2-0 over Nashville. Toronto pummels Montreal. I thought Montreal would be better than that, 7-1 for the Leafs in that game. But it was all Toronto. They were dominant. They were all over. They had the puck all night. The shots were like 40 to 20, doubled them up in shots. I mean, it was all Toronto. Actually, pretty disappointing to see Montreal play like that. But usually they give Toronto a tough game. Toronto, nothing to play for, resting a couple of their defensemen, and could only score 1 goal on Ilya Samsonov. I should say Ilya Samsonov and emergency backup goaltender Jed Alexander, who was backing up Samsonov last night. And you remember Edmonton earlier in the year, they gave their emergency backup goaltender the final minute of the third period late in the game where they were comfortably ahead. And Toronto did the same last night. I think it's an absolutely phenomenal gesture. It's something Jed Alexander will remember for the rest of his life. Essentially, that I got into an NHL game, even for just 1 minute. I don't even think he faced a shot, to be honest, in that final minute and change, but he got into an NHL game, and it's memories that'll last a lifetime for him. And I love it when teams do that. But there's one person that didn't like it, apparently. Montreal Canadiens defenseman Chris Weidman, who said after the game it was classless and, they'll get what they deserve in a couple of weeks. I mean, could you be more soft? Could you be more pathetic with that statement? Seriously. I mean, this is a kid that's having his dreams come true getting into an NHL game, and this moron is talking about how, you get what you deserve, Toronto, in a couple weeks. No, every team in the NHL would do that for the most part, I believe, in that situation, especially after seeing Edmonton do it. It's given that kid an opportunity to get into an NHL game. That's pooping your pants, being Mr. Poopy Pants, that's being Mr. Soft, and Chris Weidman then equates that to, what the Leafs will do in the playoffs in a few weeks, saying, oh, they'll get what they deserve in a few weeks. You might not even be in the NHL, Chris Weidman, in a few weeks. Just shut the fuck up. All right? Seriously. I mean, you're Mr. Suitcase, man. How many teams have you been with? 4, 5 in the NHL? You're barely stuck on the main roster of all these teams. You've been up and down between the NHL and AHL. We got to hear now what Chris Weidman thinks about how the Leafs put their emergency backup goaltender. We all got to know what Chris Weidman thinks about it. No, we don't. Shut the fuck up, man. That was pathetic.
I didn't even hear that quote, and that's interesting to hear that. But like I said, he can go polish his golf clubs. Like nobody cares. Like I said, it's a great moment. And any team in the league would do it.
You're barely. You know what you are? You're a pimple on the NHL's ass. That's what you are. You're a pimple on this league's ass. Nobody knows who you are.
Right. Yeah, he's mid-30s traffic cone basically at this point. But anyway, I mean, and Jet Alexander too, if I'm not mistaken, was he not the E-Bug earlier in the year? He's the kid that came from University of Toronto, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so yes, so all the more reason, in front of, probably had family and stuff there in attendance and friends and whatnot. So, and that was the same situation with the Oilers, putting the I can't even remember the kid's name that they put in, and I forget it. I know it was against the Hawks. I do remember watching it, but like I said, those moments, you create those moments. Remember, those are cool things. There's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of it almost takes me back to when Tortorella was talking about dismissing when Hayes got named as an All-Star. And there were a couple other instances with coaches kind of just dismissing moments that were really important. What was the whole thing about apparently that Sutter didn't let the kid know about being called up, until the last minute so his family could get in? Yeah,
Jacob Pelletier.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's just like shit like that. Like hearing things like that now in this time and age, it's just like what the fuck are we doing? Because these aren't these aren't tough lessons to build up someone's character as they're getting into the league or whatever. Like we're talking about people. No one's going to remember Jet Alexander in 20 years, right? This is a moment that literally him and his friends and family are going to remember. He will be a trivia answer that most people are going to miss, right? So like, why are we going to shit on that kind of a moment? Like it's unfair.
Yeah, it's unfair. It's I think it's and it's unfair. It's like Bloomfield, Ontario. He's where Prince Edward County. So Bloomfield, Ontario is it's actually 2 hours I think from there to Toronto, but he's close though. That's the bottom line. Like he's an Ontario kid, and I'm sure he was a Leaf fan, growing up probably, because most Ontario kids are. So you're gonna shit on that moment if you're Chris Weidman. It's ridiculous, but
it is
good for the Leafs for putting him in there, and of course they get the 7-1 win last night. Rangers with the 4-0 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets, shutting out the Jackets. Disappointed. I thought Columbus could do something for the over, but not meant to be. Shesterkin gets the shutout. Rangers, again, that's a really good defensive effort they had last night, so credit to them. Tampa Bay losing to Ottawa 7-4. I mean, kind of the writing on the wall when you started to see who was sitting out for the Lightning, but still, I wasn't sure Ottawa would show up, and I'll give them credit. I mean, that was a brutal way to end your season, or officially, in terms of being officially eliminated. That Florida game, you outplayed them, outshot them, and then you end up in a physical game, lots of nastiness, you lose, and you're out. And to come back and play like that last night, and even against a Tampa Bay team with nothing at stake, give the Sens credit. Bounce back. They wanted to play with pride last night. They did that, and a nice 7-4 win over Tampa Bay. We saw the Islanders 4-0 shutout over the Flyers. And the bad news for Pittsburgh is the Islanders won. Florida also won 4-2. So we're back where we started, Alex, in the Eastern Conference wildcard race. We started the day, Panthers and Islanders were tied with the 2 spots. Pittsburgh 1 point behind both of them. And that's where we are after last night. Florida and the Islanders have the 2 wildcard spots still, and Pittsburgh 1 point behind both of them. So tough stuff if you're the Penguins. But for Florida, my goodness, what a sweat and a half if you were rocking with us with the best bet Florida in regulation. But it got there, a late deflection goal to make it 3-2, and Sam Reinhart puts it away in the empty net. I kind of think I kind of deserved it. We kind of deserved it because Florida was all over Washington in the third period. 15-1 were the shots on goal for Florida in the third period. Yeah, they kind of were sleepwalking at times during that game, but in the third period, when that game was there to be won, they dominated. So I would have felt like kind of a bad beat if they'd gone to overtime with all that domination. But they finally got the late goal, and they ended up winning 4-2. Islanders, as I mentioned, they shut out the Flyers 4-0. But I think the bigger story is what Bo Horvat said in his post-game interview after the game, saying, what do you think of the fans and the reactions you've been getting? Oh, it's been a lot better than Vancouver here. Whoa, shots fired. I still think deep down inside he wasn't talking about the fans. I think he was more talking about management and the organization and the way they treated Bruce Boudreau. And I think all of that shit was going through his mind when he answered that question. And that's why he said what he did. I don't think he meant to disrespect the fans. I don't think he meant that against the Canuck fan base. I think this was more, fuck you, Francesco Aquilini. Fuck you, management for what you did to Bruce Boudreau and totally mismanaging and botching this organization for the last couple of years. That's, I think, where the shots were fired against more than the fan base. I know some Canuck fans thought it was, him taking a shot at them. I don't think so. I think this was really more toward the organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny either way you look at it, but definitely, I don't think the fans should take. Obviously, the fans are going to take it personally because it's their team, but I don't think it was directed toward them at all. It was clearly a management and just personnel kind of
because that's a former captain saying something like that about his old team.
And him saying that should kind of tell you a lot, and maybe keep an eye on guys who are UFAs on that Canuck team, and maybe most of them don't stick around. So that's could that be a telling sign potentially with some of those guys? But with that mid card slate, I guess I should say, with all the games, the interesting thing, New York Rangers, that was disappointing because we had that over with 6.5, but Shesterkin, I mean that's always the thing that can pop up and bite you in the ass if you go with the over in the Ranger game, is that, they can give you all the offense, but Shesterkin can lock it down. And of course, we know at Columbus, it's just, talk about waiting to go play golf at this point. You can't do anything pro Columbus at this point, the last 2 or 3 games they have. Tampa Bay, we have to knock it off, people. We have to, and I'm not saying me personally, because I'm not the one doing it, but everybody else, they got to knock it off. This Tampa Bay team's fraudulent. All right. And if Toronto can just keep their head screwed on straight, win game 1, not even game 2, just win game 1, they should be able to take this series within 5 or 6 games against the Tampa Bay team. They're not built and ready to make a playoff run. They're not going to turn it on to another level like we've seen. And like I said, we've all watched Tampa Bay close enough to know this isn't the Tampa Bay team from last year, the year before, or the year before that. And, that's an embarrassing loss, in my opinion. Like I said, it's the Ottawa team whose heads were still on the clouds, and they just were able to seize the opportunity on the ice in that moment. Now, if you played that game again today, Tampa probably wins it 5-2. But Tampa was supposed to win yesterday. That's when the game was scheduled. And those are the kind of things that just lapses and just uncharacteristic movements, passing not being crisp and clean, Vasilevsky letting in a soft goal here or there. He's still going to make great saves. But the thing was, okay, he made 30 great saves. Oh, Elliott last night. But I'm just going back, even just talking about, because we didn't talk about him the other day.
Just in general. Yeah, the Ranger game. That's probably what you're thinking of. The Ranger game. That was not Vasilevsky. He was horseshit that night. Let's be honest. That Ranger game Wednesday night, he was terrible.
Awesome. So I'm just kind of just going through them as a whole, the last 3 or 4 games. Just the things that we saw that made us love Tampa Bay the last 2 years are not there. And so and putting away teams late, that was one of the calling cards of Tampa Bay. They didn't screw around against inferior opposition getting ready for the postseason. And now you're seeing them losing game 7-4 to Ottawa. It's just a bad time. So, I would say sell anything Lightning moving forward. What were some of the other games in the slate we talked about?
Oh, sorry, the Panthers.
Oh, yeah, Panthers game, which I didn't sweat too much. I mean, I was on that regulation as well, but I also knew what I was getting myself into betting, the Florida Panthers. So, and then there were 3 different goals called back at one point. I know Florida had a 1-0 lead, I thought, early in the game. It got called back.
Called it back, yep.
And then before Washington actually tied the game up, they had a goal call back too, if I'm not mistaken. That was the game I was kind of flipping in and out of. But when you see that happening and you have a bet on anything, chances are you just feel like you're going to lose, right? Like if you have an over and under, like anytime you see more than one goal get called back, you're like, this is not going to go well in my favor. But it did end up working out. Like I said, getting the goal with a minute left, and then the empty net goal on top of it too. Which once again, folks, keep note of that. We're seeing teams finally starting to score their empty net goals for the first time in years. So if you are a puck line player, now's the time to kind of maybe wake out of hibernation and look for that. I don't know if we're going to see too many of them in the playoffs, but maybe in the last few days of the regular season, it might be worth taking a shot on.
All right, good stuff. And this is the longest recap we'll ever have on the Ice Guys show. We've reached the latter third of the card now, the later games. Minnesota, St. Louis. Minnesota getting the 5-3 win over the St. Louis Blues. I had the team total over, split with the full game over, so happy to see both of those cash in. Good bounce back spot for the Wild, and they took advantage of it, getting the win over St. Louis. Much needed to keep any faint hopes alive in terms of the Central Division or home ice as well. So very important there that they got that win. The Boston Bruins tie the NHL regular season record for wins in a single season with their 2-1 win over New Jersey. That was a good game too. Don't be fooled by the score. Playoff atmosphere, well played. I thought for the New Jersey Devils, they played a hell of a hockey game even though they lost. I give them a lot of credit. Valiant effort in defeat from the New Jersey Devils. I don't think there's anything they can be overly upset about other than they just didn't score enough against the Bruins and Linus Ullmark. So a good 2-1 win for Boston. Very good game. The second best bet for me was Boston last night, and they got it done. So nice 2-0 sweep with the best bets. Great game, though, and the Bruins now can make history with a victory against the Flyers on TNT. Of course, both games today are TNT games, so we'll get to that in just a bit. Vancouver, 3-2 shootout win over the Calgary Flames. Typical Calgary, right? A ton of shots and only 2 goals to show for it. They really were victimized by their old ways and bad habits last night, shooting right into the chest of Thatcher Demko half the time. We saw it all throughout that game, although I will say he absolutely robbed Tyler Toffoli, I think it was, of the overtime game. The overtime was incredible in that Flames-Canucks game. Back and forth it went. And Vancouver gets the shootout win in their final home game of the season. They say their bon voyage to John Garrett, the longtime television analyst. They did a nice little video tribute to him during the game. So very good to see them get that. And just a very, very hurtful loss for the Calgary Flames, because now they're 1 point behind Winnipeg. And you could say, well, they're only 1 point back. Winnipeg still has a game in hand on Calgary. And Calgary loses the tiebreaker to Winnipeg, where if they're tied in points, it goes to Winnipeg. Why? Regulation wins. Winnipeg has more than Calgary. Calgary has to finish 1 point ahead of Winnipeg to get into the playoffs as the wild card. So this now just got a lot tougher for the Calgary Flames to make the playoffs. That was a huge, costly point that they did not get, losing in a shootout there to Vancouver last night.
Yeah, it didn't get tough. It's over. That's basically what it is. You got a Jets team that needs 3 points over the next 3 games. This thing's done. And Calgary has no one to blame but themselves. The way that they played up and down just could not get
and
any
not
kind
ready
of consistency.
to play in the first period, which came back to bite them. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's just it was the same whole old hat for them, and another bad loss. And like I said, they've only got a couple more games left in their season. And great win for Vancouver. I hope you guys listened to what I said, and I should have actually bet this thing myself. But Vancouver first period, especially when you mentioned about Garrett leaving and everything, and knowing this is the last home game, they have the throwback jerseys on. I knew they were going to come out hot at least that first 20 minutes, and they did 2-0, and held Calgary off the board for pretty much 48, almost 50 minutes of play.
You were right, because you said it to a T. They're going to come out hot, but maybe Calgary gets going. It was all Calgary in the third period. There's no doubt. That's when they got their 2 goals. And thankfully, Demko was stupendous to hang on and get that game to overtime for the draw, plus 380. So happy to hit that.
Yeah, very nice.
Everything was good. Our reads were spot on in that game.
Yeah. So that, that's like I said. Now we pretty much, it's a matter of where everyone's going, not who's getting in as far as that Western Conference picture goes. And I think within the next probably 48, 72 hours, we'll have that all solidified.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And just quickly on the remaining 2 games, I believe Seattle pummeling your Blackhawks, Alex, 7-3. No bad spot for Seattle. Good on you for thinking that. I took a small shot with Chicago. Silly, but nevertheless, even after clinching the playoff spot, Seattle was ready to rock and just too good for Chicago. And Mrazek with a stink bomb in net, but I'm not surprised by that. But they were pretty bad in front of them too. 7-3 Seattle, and then Colorado with the 4-3 win against the LA Kings. We just happened to see we have our personal DM chats on Twitter, and Jimmy Murphy had a big parlay going, and the Kings were the last leg of it. So he was deciding whether to hedge or not out of it. I told him I think I would hedge because I just think Colorado's going to pull it out. I think he stuck to his guns, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if he ended up hedging out at all, but if he didn't, that's tough because the Kings were the final leg of this parlay that I think would have paid him like $2,500 or something.
Yeah.
It was, so we'll have to see if Jimmy got something out of that. But
if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he did either. And when I saw that pop up, the first thing I said was, cash out. When that's just off of numbers alone, and also we didn't really trust LA to kind of finish that game up. And what does Colorado do, in games? They linger around, shit's tied, and all of a sudden they just, find a way to score a goal late. And that's kind of what they did. They did it twice to win that game 4-3. So that's a bad beat for our friend there. But going back to the Chicago game, I mean, that was beautiful. Like I said, Chicago, Seattle, expect high scoring. Got that first period over in about 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And thankfully, like I said, I know you took a shot on Chicago, but Hawks needed to come out of there with no points. So great job by them. Hopefully this is one of the last games we see Peter Mrazek in a Hawks uniform. That'll be wonderful. And a great win for Seattle. Like I said, keep things rolling. You made it to playoffs, but listen, this is only your second year. That's definitely a
build
team
some
you don't
momentum,
want.
right?
Yeah, you did not want to
roll
in the because they know how tough their first round opponent is. They don't even know who it's going to be at, but whatever it is, it's going to be an uphill battle. So keep all the momentum going as much as you can. Seattle might be a team I'd look to back probably the rest of the way in this week for the regular season, if that's the mantra they have.
And I heard a bunch of the Seattle broadcast, obviously, during that game with Forsland, Eddie Olczyk, and JT Brown. And Eddie is just so complimentary of everything involving Chicago's players, but he didn't say a single damn thing about the organization. I noticed that during the broadcast. He didn't say anything about, management and ownership and da-da-da-da-da. He didn't say. All his praise was for Taves, what a great captain he's been, great leader, great human being, and Kane and all. And they talked about, because Forsland was trying to create some banter during the game and noticed that Eddie Olczyk was with Chicago all those years and said, you've seen this team up and close, what's made them so special. And he went on and on about the players and even some of the old coaches and current coaches and everything, but did not say a damn thing about anything to do with management and ownership. I just found I'm not surprised by that.
I was going to say,
that's ridiculous that it got to a point between management, ownership, and him with the contract negotiation for the television side of things to the point where he had to walk. It was ridiculous.
Eddie Olczyk has been a part of the Hawks family basically since 1984. Yeah. So he knows everything going back to the dollar bill days and all the things. So he knows. And there's some things that he will probably go to the grave with involving that organization, as a lot of people will. And so I'm not shocked one bit that he had nothing to say at all, good or bad, about management and staff. And if you ask probably any old Hawks, personnel certainly from the 2000s and back, it's probably going to be, mum's the word. It's why you haven't seen a documentary about the Hawks, and you might not until that franchise ever gets sold out of that family. So, it's the way it goes. It is what it is. And those who are in the know the stories, and they just kind of keep them to themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? You think, well, the recap is done. We've talked about all the NHL games. We actually still have one more thing to talk about. It's the Frozen Four last night, and the incredible turn of events we saw in the national championship game with Quinnipiac and Minnesota. So, Minnesota's up 2-0, right? Early in the second period, they get the 2-0 goal, and the crowd's rocking. A lot of Gophers fans, obviously, in the crowd in Tampa for that game. But the moment that they let up and they had a real bad shift or two right after the second Minnesota goal, and Quinnipiac scored and made it 2-1, I'm like, this concerns me that Quinnipiac made it 2-1 that quickly, after Minnesota went up 2-0. And from that point on, I mean, Minnesota didn't have that same giddy up, at all at that point on. It's like their talent and the immense talent they had. They were a loaded hockey team with Logan Cooley and Snuggerud and Nyes, and you go on down the list of all the incredible players they have. They were a loaded hockey team this year for this run to the championship in the Frozen Four. And they just, Quinnipiac, that first goal gave them life, gave them hope, gave them confidence. Yet Minnesota was, keeping it in check, held them at bay 2-1. But sure enough, you've still got to survive the last couple of minutes, net empty. And sure enough, they could not. As Quinnipiac gets the deflection goal, it goes past the goaltender. They tie it up 2-2. It goes to overtime, and I don't know about you or anyone in the area there in Minnesota, Alex, but I'm sure you're thinking the worst at that point. If you're a Golden Gophers fan, if you're a Minnesota sports fan of any kind, and sure enough, not only are you thinking of the worst, but you think you can at least get into your seat, get your next beer from the fridge, sit down and get ready for overtime. Well, maybe, the washroom break took longer than expected before overtime started, and maybe you come back and you realize the damn game's over already. Holy shit. 10 seconds into overtime, and it was a beautiful goal, not a cheapie. It was a bad defensive gaffe and breakdown as well by Minnesota. A beautiful pass in front, and then put it in on the backhand, and 3-2 Quinnipiac in overtime to claim the national championship for the first time, by the way, in program history. That result for the Golden Gophers last night is just a portrait of heartbreak, despair, misery, just complete ineptitude at times, choke jobs, collapses, you name it, for the Minnesota sports fan of the last 3 to 4 decades. Doesn't matter if it's the Vikings, the Twins, the Timberwolves, the Wild, the Golden Gophers, anything Minnesota sports. And all it ends in is heartbreak. You're gut-wrenched. You can't believe what you just saw. Does the Minnesota sports fan believe that somehow, all these tough losses they've had in recent years are real in existence? All the years that the Wild have come up short in the playoffs. Timberwolves, soiled themselves against Memphis in the playoffs last year in the NBA. I mean, the Twins have been a joke in the playoffs ever since they won the damn World Series in '91, which seems like eons ago when Kirby Puckett was on that team and Jack Buck was calling that World Series. That's how long ago it was. I mean, this Minnesota sports scene, Alex, it's just been absolutely depressing, and it continued last night.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll be here 15 years in December, and it's just mind-boggling just in that time span. The choke jobs I've seen. I've been here for when Blair Walsh went wide left. Even
That's
down
the one.
to
I knew there was a Viking one.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and as soon as that happens, everybody brought up Gary Anderson in '98. But it goes all the way down to even the St. Paul Saints, right? Before they became the AAA affiliate for the Twins, they were an independent league, super famous. Bill Murray was one of the co-owners, and all this. They had the best record in minor league baseball 2 straight years. They get into the playoffs, they couldn't win a single game. I mean, it goes all the way up and down Minnesota sports. It's just it's mind-boggling to me seeing this. And the thing that really pissed me off more than the Gophers losing that game was the fact that I couldn't live bet it at all anywhere because it's college hockey. Kudos to Bet Online for even having a first period side and total up for the national title game. But I mean, I just knew when the Gophers blew that 2-1 lead and with the empty net goal late, the 6-on-5 goal late, I already knew then this is probably going to go Quinnipiac's way, and I just didn't think it was going to be 10 seconds. That's all they needed to do it in overtime. But it's just heartbreaking, And like I said, this is what if you're a Minnesota sports fan, and the only team I like here in Minnesota is the Golden Gophers. But if you're a fan of all the teams, I just feel bad for you, honestly, because it's just year after year, or multiple times in a year, season after season, you just have these collapses that are just dreadful.
It's unfortunate. And what's unfortunate is that team had it all. That team was built to win this thing, and they looked like they were gonna, for all season, the way they played in their last game against Boston. I thought Boston was a damn good team, and Minnesota just did away with them in the third period. I thought that they're going to actually get this done this year, but nope, did not happen. Somehow, Quinnipiac battles back from 2-0 down and wins 3-2 to get the national championship. All right, that is the longest recap we've ever had here on the Ice Guys show for the night before. But we could do it, and it was fun to do it because there was just so much excitement going on yesterday in hockey, not only NHL, but the Frozen Four as well. And because we've only got 2 games here on this Sunday slate. So let's get into it. They're TNT games, both of them, a TNT doubleheader for the 2 NHL games on the Sunday slate, starting with the Bruins and the Flyers looking to make history. The Boston Bruins as the team to have the most wins in a single regular season in NHL history. They have a chance to accomplish that feat tonight. They are minus 260 road favorites, 6 the total in this one. Of course, for the Bruins and the Flyers, everybody, you don't even have to question it. It's back-to-back for all 4 teams in action because all 4 teams played yesterday as well. Bruins with the 2-1 win against New Jersey. And, of course, the Philadelphia Flyers shut out by the New York Islanders. That's now their 5th straight loss, by the way, the Philadelphia Flyers going into this game. Now, the question ends up being, if you're Boston, you look at your remaining schedule, you've got Washington in your home finale on Tuesday, and then you wrap up the regular season in Montreal on Thursday. Is there an interest that maybe we want to get this thing done at home? I don't know. I think you just try to get it done. Doesn't matter where you're playing or who you play. You want to get it done. You can't take it to chance that, hey, we can mail this one in today. We've still got 2 games left, including our final home game to get the record. No, I think you still want to try to get it done. And we know they're better than Philadelphia. It goes without saying. There's no question. And I like what Patrice Bergeron said. You know what? What gives me faith that I think Boston's going to do what they do, Alex, and come to play like they always seem to do in these recent games is what Patrice Bergeron said with Emily Kaplan after the game last night. He said, we're trying to be playing our best, going into the playoffs. We're taking these games seriously. We want to be playing good hockey, good habits on the ice. And I agree with that. Their defensive game's been impeccable. I mean, that was impeccable. You want to know how you win in the playoffs? Watch how the Boston Bruins defend that 2-1 lead last night against New Jersey. That's how it's done. Active sticks, good positioning. Nobody has a breakdown or loses a New Jersey Devil forward in coverage. They clear the puck out when they get the opportunity. They get the saves from Allmark when they need them. That's how you defend the lead. It was a textbook defensive clinic by the Bruins last night, holding that lead. As far as the goaltending, Jeremy Swayman will be in net for Boston, obviously, on the back-to-back. We should see Felix Sandstrom, although it hasn't been confirmed yet for Philadelphia after it was Carter Hart last night. But I'm going to probably go with some kind of combo here, and it's probably going to be Boston and under for me, actually, 6.5. And look, maybe I'm getting my confidence and my swagger back, Alex, with unders, because guess who cashed an under last night in that Nashville-Winnipeg game? Finally, I cashed an under. I was not the jinx or the hex as usual with an under for a change. I finally won one of those damn things, and it felt good. So that's the way I would think I'm going to play this game. Obviously it's better value than anything in terms of the regulation price, which is minus 155. You could go first period puck line, but they want to win the game. They don't care about winning in the first period. They care about winning in the hockey game. So I want the Boston full game element, to be part of my bet here in this game. So again, it's a short card. I don't love anything, but we want to give you something, some kind of small bet, some kind of lean or recommendation here on both of these games. So that's what I'm going to give you here. I think it's sound. It's logical. You could pair Boston and under 6.5 because I don't think this game's going to be all that high scoring. And it's plus 120 at Bet365, by the way, for Boston and under 6.5. So Boston Bruins and under 6.5 plus 120. I kind of like that. What do you think here, Alex? Bruins Flyers.
That's probably the closest thing I would come to betting as well. Like I said, there's not much to look for in this game. And even though, like I said, I heard the same thing too with Patrice Bergeron in the post-game comments, saying, well, now we've tied the record. We want to kind of go and grab the record. But then I read an article from our friend Jimmy Murphy, who, basically talks about the 4 guys that got called up. Possibly Patrice Bergeron could sit out in this game, as well as Charlie McAvoy, because we see Vinny Lettieri got called up, Oscar Steen, Brandon Bussi is now going to be the backup for this game, which means Linus Ullmark will be scratched. And these are all guys that did well in Providence. They have good numbers in the AHL, but we talked about this for quite some time. Once Boston clinched the playoff spot, we said eventually, once everything gets settled as far as standings, not just the records, but just standings, we would probably see some of these veterans rest. And that seems to be kind of, they're going to try to maybe do what we've seen with Toronto, that whole, you said that rest rotation. And I think that might be the way that they kind of approach it. So even in saying that, that doesn't mean that, go jump on Philly because they're, sitting a bunch of guys. No, that's certainly not the case. Philly's trash. But, if you got to pick a side, pick Boston. And I think comboing that with the under 6.5. The only thing that scares me is, though, like I said, Philly's trash. If Sandstrom just, lays an egg and all of a sudden Boston, puts the screws to them, they're up, 3-0 in the first period. Now that 6.5 might actually be a little bit in jeopardy. So it's one I'm probably going to just stay away from altogether. But that the combo is definitely the best look here and best option for this game.
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. And you know what? That news about that there could be some rested Bruins here, including Bergeron and maybe some AHL call-ups from Providence involved in the on the team here tonight. You know what that will do is the one thing I was thinking of was, the two favorites parlayed. I'm not going to do that now. That way, if, Boston somehow doesn't win today, it's not going to cost me what I think is going to happen in the other game, which we're going to get to in just a few minutes, which we're going to get to right now. Second game, Colorado Avalanche, Anaheim Ducks. Colorado minus 300, road favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. I'm going to go back to the well with the same bet I used with San Jose and Edmonton yesterday. I'm going to go Colorado and over 5.5 here with the Avalanche and the Ducks. I like that combo bet. Makes sense to me. I think it can get to 6 goals here because Anaheim's just, a team that's capable of giving up goals in bunches. Probably a good chance we see that here in this game. Again, Colorado and over 5.5 is plus 104 right now at Pinnacle. So that's a real nice price. And again, back-to-back for both teams. In fact, I actually think it's not as bad a back-to-back for Colorado. Anaheim's got to come back from Arizona, fly a little bit. Colorado's just, there's no travel. Well, there's no air travel. They're in LA last night with that win against the Kings. They get to stay in the same hotel. It's a very manageable back-to-back. As we always say, when you do the LA-Anaheim back-to-back, they're very manageable. And it's not the same, strain on you mentally or physically that it would be otherwise. So I think it sets up well. Now, what's interesting to note here about this game is Pavel Francouz is going to be in net here for the Colorado Avalanche tonight. And I say, why is that interesting? Because we haven't seen Pavel Francouz in a very long time. In fact, February the 7th is the last time we saw him starting for the Colorado Avalanche. His numbers are not bad. He's finally ready to come back from the lower body injury he had. 2.53 goals against, 919 save percentage this year. Pretty solid numbers for Pavel Francouz. That's why I don't mind it too much that he's in net for the Avs tonight. I think he's still a guy that's got good numbers, can be capable of still getting the job done here against the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim, that will probably, after surprise starter last night was Eric Sinek for the Anaheim Ducks, getting the start in goal for the Ducks against Arizona yesterday. And obviously not a great performance from him, from Ollie Eric Sinek, but at the same point in time, kind of unexpected that he was going to start because they were saving Dostal, I believe, for this game against Colorado. And John Gibson, a late illness kept him out of that Arizona game yesterday. So I would expect Dostal in net for the Ducks here tonight, even though it hasn't been confirmed just yet. Dostal at times has shown you that he can maybe be someone to look at for the future. But at the same time, he's also had some rough nights, and he's had more bad than good lately. 4, 3, 3, 5 goals allowed in 4 of the last 6 starts here for Lucas Dostal here in this one. 3.77 goals against, 901 save percentage for him coming into this game. So that's still not great numbers when you're facing a team that's got obviously the potency that the Colorado Avalanche have going into this game. Colorado actually lost to Anaheim the last time these teams met in Denver. It was 5-3 Ducks. But again, 44-32 were the shots for Colorado. Gibson had one of those nights where he was just sensational in net. Prior to that, though, Colorado had won 7 straight over the Anaheim Ducks. So that's the way I'm going to play it here at a slight plus price. Colorado and over 5.5 here. Alex, Avalanche Ducks.
Yeah, you might have struck oil next to a bunch of opals with these combo bets. That might be the way to attack some of these large favorites late in the season. So it's something we definitely be keeping an eye on. But you talk about Anaheim. Like I said, this team, their goalie options now, it's a matter of whether you're stacking wine boxes or milk crates in front of the net. So that makes no difference to me which guy is in net. Eriksson, who, of course, if you think the name sounds familiar, that is the brother of Joel Eriksson, Ollie. And he had, halfway decent numbers in San Jose, but I never take Pacific Division numbers in the AHL too heavy because they mostly play each other. And they have like a weird imbalance in their schedule. They don't play a lot of the teams in the Central. They don't get to play any of the teams in the East, I think more than like 5 times or whatever. So their numbers look a little bit inflated. It's kind of hard to manage just how good or bad someone is based on those numbers. And with Francouz, I didn't see the numbers. Did he have any conditioning stints in the AHL for this injury?
I'm taking a look right now in terms
Because I
of
found nothing.
I didn't see anything either in terms of him playing in the AHL before this. Yeah, so I think
So
he's just
he's coming
right
in
back
cold
off the injury. Yeah,
off the and then he had a surgery too. So yeah, this thing screams over. If you're looking for one thing to bet, it would probably just be strictly over. But I think this is a
I
great
think
time.
I will add that. That is concerning that he didn't get any time to
Yeah,
get himself up to conditioning speed for this first start. So I
yeah,
might not only bet. That's what I did yesterday with San Jose
mm,
Edmonton. I also bet the over by itself, over
right.
6.5. I think I'll do
Yeah,
that here. Colorado and over 5.5, and I'll also add that over 6.5 minus
mhm,
120. I think it's good
yeah.
protection because I could see Anaheim, especially at home, maybe chipping in a little bit.
And that's probably how not if anything now it actually kind of scares me a little bit on the Colorado side because maybe Colorado's utilizing these last couple of games for starts to get him conditioned because here's the thing, Colorado obviously going
They
to the
are still trying to
playoffs.
win a division. We have to remember
That's
that
what I'm
as
saying.
well.
So they're still trying to win the division, but at the same time, you're going to the playoffs. Wouldn't you want your backup goalie to really kind of get a little bit more work in than just one more start against a bad team?
Yeah.
Because we did see Francouz have to come in last year, and play some meaningful games. So I don't know if you want him being in as cold as he might possibly be. So that's something to keep an eye on. So definitely liking the over here, but I will combo it for better value as well with Colorado side.
Yeah. And of course, if Colorado, which again, they're trying to win the division, they're tied with Dallas in points. They have a game in hand, though, on Dallas. Winning your division means you get guaranteed the first two series you have home ice in the playoffs. So that's why it's very important. Win your division.
Yeah,
You at least have home ice advantage for the first two rounds
true.
of
Yeah,
the Stanley Cup playoffs. So that's what Colorado's after. So that's why I still trust them to win this game. Plus, they're facing Anaheim. That's
and
the key.
Anaheim, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with those two, Colorado and over 5.5, and also over 6.5 on its own. And definitely like those two looks. And as far as props go for this game, Dennis Malkin scored yesterday, and he's streaky sometimes. So maybe that's a sign. Maybe he can get on a little bit of a roll here for the Colorado Avalanche. Mikko Rantanen remains on fire. And what we've talked about a lot with Rantanen is the shots on goal prop for him, which has been very strong. He's been going over that shot on goal prop quite a bit in recent games, and the over 3.5 shots with him definitely, I think, can get there once again. All right, there you go. That's the Sunday card. We appreciate it. Hit the like button. 118 live viewers on YouTube, and to our podcast listeners, shout out to them. A reminder, check out patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. Goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, daily Ice Guys show betting card, and bonus content. Make sure you sign up and subscribe. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month.
Yeah. Also, if you are a Patreon subscriber right now, you can sign up for our NHL Bracket Challenge pool. We've already got the sign up information up there and we will have that on the regular Twitter account at _Ice Guys. I'll have it on my Twitter account. We'll have it all posted up and everything for everybody, and it'll be in the description of the YouTube starting tomorrow. So it's free to enter. And like I said, we're going to figure out what the prizes are. We'll announce that hopefully before the playoffs start. We'll kind of figure out what we're going to give away for first and second place in the pool. But that should be a lot of fun. And also check out the Ice Guys store. Iceguys.myspreadshop.com. We got caps, we got hoodies, we got t-shirts, mugs, everything. Definitely want to check out things over there.
All right, excellent. Check out the Ice Guys store for sure. Cop yourself some great merch. We'll be back with hopefully some great best bets to wrap up the Sunday edition of the show right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete performance package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code IceGuys at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code IceGuys. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta 8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta 8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta 8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code IceGuys, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta 8 products today.
All right, it is time for Best Bets here to wrap up this Sunday edition. We got 2 games to choose from, not quite as much as yesterday, but we'll find something. Alex, what do you like for Best Bet?
Shit, I guess we got to go with that. Let's go over 6.5. And in fact, you know what? Let's recommend a live wager. How about that? Try to shoot for a 5.5 anywhere, laying $1.25 or better. With that Colorado Avalanche, Anaheim Ducks game today. Like I said, we like the combo bet. Of course, with if you can get that may not be available everywhere. I know for a lot of you that bet offshore, you may not be able to find some of those combo bets. So, I just recommend a live look today of over 5.5. Anything better than minus $1.25 with the Avs and the Ducks.
All right, there we go. Avs and Ducks over 6.5, but look for a live over 5.5, says Alex as well. Maybe you'll be able to find it at some point here during this game. All right, my best bet here for this Sunday card. I'm gonna go to that same game. I'm gonna go with the Colorado and over 5.5. The combo plus 104. Let's roll with that. Again, we've only got 2 games, so unfortunately, you don't have a lot to choose from. But again, these are nothing but small plays for me today. We had a huge investment in yesterday's card, obviously, with all the games, and I liked a bunch of stuff more than I like today. But we'll go with that. Colorado and over 5.5, right around even money, plus 104 for best bet here for this Sunday card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. We got 5 shows left in the regular season. Monday to Friday this week, we'll be on at our usual time, 2 p.m. Eastern, the final 5 days of the regular season. So make sure you join us this week for the final regular season week of the NHL season right here on the Ice Guys. And a reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will see you again tomorrow. Brand new week on Monday for another edition of the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.